congratulations for us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. I would like to see a motion to adopt the agenda as listed.
Approval of the adoption of the agenda as printed. Second.
All right, it's been first and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in approval of adoption, please raise your hand. Excellent, that's everyone. Okay, that brings us to one of our favorite parts of board meetings, which is awards and recognitions. And to do that, I will turn it over to our Director of Schools, Dr. Adrian Battle.
Let's see. Good evening. Thank you, Chair Rod, and good evening, board members. Tonight, I'm excited to recognize a great athletic program and a tremendous student athlete, as well as our facilities team, for a couple of honors they've received in the past few weeks. This month, the Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association, or TSSAA, honored 9 high schools in each part of the state for their sportsmanship during the 2022-23 school year. Each of these schools was a finalist for the 2023 AF Bridges Award. And I am extremely proud to say that our own Stratford High School was one of the schools in the Middle Tennessee Division. I had an opportunity to visit Stratford today where wonderful things are happening in the classroom and on the field. This is a wonderful recognition of Stratford's student athletes, their coaches and athletic director, their principal and administration, and everyone else involved in the program for playing the right way. And Stratford received a $1,000 award for this recognition. Congratulations to everyone, including parents and other family members, on this great honor. And now I'd like to ask that the Stratford Athletic Program representatives who are here with us tonight to come on up to be recognized and to take a quick photo. Let's give them another round of applause. Well, next up is another excellent student athlete, Wyatt Bowling, a sophomore at Martin Luther King Jr. Academic Magnet High School, another wonderful school I had an opportunity to visit today. Wyatt took home a state medal after he finished third out of 259 runners in the TSSAA Class A, Single A, Double A Boys Cross Country State Championship on November 3rd with a time of 16 minutes, 10.25 seconds. And remember, he is only a sophomore. So we might be seeing Wyatt back up here again for another couple of years. We wanted to say and extend a congratulations on your outstanding performance, and we'd like to invite you up to congratulate you and to take a quick photo.
Yeah, I know. Like 3 strides.
1, 2. You go, Wyatt.
All right, and while we're on the subject of athletics, let me just wish a quick good luck to our football teams from East and Pearl Cone. Because if you didn't know, both of them will be competing for a state championship in Chattanooga this weekend. I think one of our community leaders said it best. Nashville will be taking over Chattanooga this weekend. So East, it will be playing in the Class 3A and Pearl Cone in Class 4A. By the way, that makes MNPS the only district in the state with 2 teams that have gone all the way to the championship game this year. Did I mention this is at least the second year in a row? So we're extremely proud. Eagles and Firebirds, I know you're going to do great. You're going to be great. You've got this. MNPS in the city of Nashville will be cheering you on and all the way. So congratulations. Finally, our facilities maintenance and construction team has won 2 awards recently. The first one I want to mention is from the Tennessee School Boards Association, which gave MNPS the 2023 School of the Year for Excellence in Architectural Design Award for all the outstanding work on the new Goodlettsville Elementary School. Y'all, if you haven't been to Goodlettsville Elementary yet, I know school board member Masters has found her way there a few times already. You've got to go and check it out. It has big and beautiful spaces. It goes big on environmental sustainability. It even has a slide for those who don't want to take the stairs from the second floor down to the first. And what I like best about the design is the way it accentuates, it elevates, and facilitates teaching and learning. So congratulations and thank you to our MNPS program manager, Kevin Cochran, along with the architects at Goodwin Mills Kaywood, the general contractor R.G. Anderson, Principal Tracy Gibson, and her staff at Goodlettsville Elementary, David Profit, our Executive Director of Facilities, Maintenance and Construction, our Director of Facility Planning and Construction, Casey Migo, and everyone else who played a part in this great project. So anyone who played any role in this project, please come on up. We want to salute you and take a picture with you as well. Congratulations on this wonderful award.
There you go. A picture of the award. Celebrating. Congratulations again on your award.
All right, and the other honor our facilities team recently received is a Clean Air Award from the National Air Filtration Association. This award recognizes the great work our people do every day to improve and maintain the quality of indoor air in our hundreds of buildings across the district. That work is not simple or quick. It involves changing or washing more than 25,000 air filters every quarter. So we owe a big thank you and congratulations to our own Bruce Resnick and Bobby Levine, as well as Filter Pro, the company we work with every day, for everything they've done to earn this award. And I would like to invite those leaders up as well for us to give you a round of applause and to take a picture.
All right. 1, 2.
All right, I have two more announcements before I turn it over. One, just a quick shout out to Principal Dr. Kinye Reese, our principal at Head Magnet, who released her very own children's book today. So congratulations to her. We're really excited for her sharing her talents with the world. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we've had a beloved employee who passed away on Sunday, thank you. Our very own Phyllis Phillips, Director of Pre-K Programming. Phyllis Phillips was a top-notch employee and, more importantly, a world-class person. Phyllis never said a bad word about anyone. She was always positive, always smiling, always made you feel better, and always left you thinking good thoughts when you walked out of a meeting or finished a conversation with her. She was a devoted mother, and she spent countless hours caring for her own mother. Phyllis had served the people of Nashville since 1985. In her more than 38 years with the district, from her early days teaching first grade and second grade, to her time as language arts coordinator, to these last 8 years as director of pre-kindergarten programs, Phyllis always acted with the utmost integrity. My team is really looking at me. I'm going to hold it together, I promise. The quality of her work was consistently first rate. She knew how to get the most out of her team. She was a true leader who only wanted the best for our youngest students and their families. We already miss Phyllis at Metro Nashville Public Schools, and I know we will continue to miss her dearly. We are grieving alongside you, all her family and her friends, but we are also comforted in knowing that Phyllis has been released from pain and trouble, and in knowing what a magnificent legacy she lives. I'm going to ask that we take a moment of silence in honor of Phyllis. Thank you. Again, Board Chair Elrod and board members, thank you for the opportunity to share awards and recognitions and to honor our beloved colleague. With that, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's always nice to celebrate our staff and, of course, remember them while they're here and no longer. We are really sad as a board to hear about Phyllis, as she was instrumental to the pre-K program and our ongoing desire to expand that. That brings us to public participation. We have two individuals that have signed up for public participation this evening. Public participation is where we can hear from MNPS stakeholders to speak in front of the board during our evening together. You have 3 minutes to speak to the board. Your time will be shown on the screen to my side. Clicker, timer, clock. Screen seems generous to your side here. And at the end of the 3 minutes, in case you're not keeping that time, you will hear this beautiful bell. And your time will be up. You do not need to provide your address, as I understand that that's sometimes a concern for security reasons. But if you could tell us what districts you live within, if that's possible, we would really appreciate it. The first person that we have signed up for public participation is Mr. William Hill.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is William Hill. I'm the Executive Director of Rocketship Public Schools, Tennessee. I live here in the county. So I'm here this evening to speak to our charter renewal application for Rocketship Nashville Elementary School. Rocketship is an elementary-only charter school network focused on giving historically disadvantaged communities of color equal access to opportunity. We do this through a school model built on 3 pillars: parent power, talent development, and personalized learning. We approach education as something we do with our parents and families and not to our parents and families. Our teachers and staff work to build strong relationships with every single family that chooses Rocket Ship. This begins at the beginning of each school year with a home visit to those families that help building authentic relationships with those families throughout the year and continues throughout the year. Many students come to Rocket Ship academically behind where they should be. And by working closely with their families, we excel at meeting their individual needs and helping them to achieve accelerated growth. As evidence of this, Rocket Ship Nashville Northeast has received the highest overall TVOS rating, level 5. Every year there has been a TN Ready growth data available, except this past year when the school received an overall composite score of 4, but a literacy and numeracy composite level score of 5. In the fall of 2019, just before the pandemic, Rocket Ship Nashville Northeast was designated a reward school by the state of Tennessee. And that year, our student body gained an average of 1.7 years growth in reading and 1.8 years growth in math. We know that accelerated growth is the key to helping our students who are behind and catch up with their peers. We were beginning to see the cumulative process of this approach before the pandemic when proficiency scores for our economically disadvantaged students showed them outperforming their similar peers, not only in their cluster, in the district, but also across the state. Like all public schools, the pandemic had a significant impact on the families we serve, and we are still working with them to recover. For example, this year we have launched a cohort of master literacy teachers who are being trained as experts in the science of reading. Each one of our campuses here in Nashville will have 3 teacher leaders who can coach, develop, and support all of their teachers in their schools. We want to continue this work as part of MNPS School District, and we want you to view Rocket Ship as a nonprofit partner with you in this work to provide every student with the kind of education they need and deserve. Last but not least, by voting yes for Rocket Ship Nashville Northeast, you are confirming your commitment and belief that each and every student should have access to a high-quality college and career-ready education and equal access to opportunity for all. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. The second person that signed up is Ms. Louise.
Good evening, board members and Madam Vice Chair. I am Sharon Campos. I'm the office manager for Rocket Ship National Northeast Elementary School. I'm in representation of Ms. Juana Luis, as she is coming in. So I'm her interpreter. So her testimonial is already written down, but I just wanted to put a face to her name in this one. Good evening. My name is Juana Luis, and my son attends Rocket Ship National Northeast Elementary. I want to share my experience as a Rocket Ship parent with no shame, because I know there's others out there that are going through what I have gone through with my child. We moved here from Mexico in September, coming from another country. We didn't know the language or resources available. We tried other schools, but he would cry and fight to the point I was already ready to send my child back to Mexico. He would tell me, I want to go back. As before making the decision, I went to work, and my coworkers told me about Rocket Ship. She told me that her child attends Rocket Ship, and she spoke highly of the school. As a last resort, I told my husband to check out Rocket Ship. My husband went and toured the school with my son and called me and said, guess what? They accepted him at Rocket Ship. After completing enrollment, I started to regain hope. My son has done a complete transition in the little time he has been there. I used to cry every day and night, and now I see him, and he's so happy, and he makes me melt. He comes home and tells me things such as, they are my family, I have friends, and they are my brothers. Hearing that gives me so much comfort. Our previous experience was so terrifying. He was a different child. He would cry and hit before starting Rocket Ship. It was a struggle just to get him in the building. You could see the sadness in his eyes. The struggle was immense, to the point that the teachers at the previous school will leave him outside and told us they could no longer help us. After a short time at Rocket Ship, I could see how quickly the change. The patient and love, it's so immense. They made him know that he was worth it. Miss Christina and Miss Campos have been so attentive. You can see that they really put themselves in the kids' shoes and treat them like family. Communication was a part of the struggle before. Now I can see the growth in my child, having teachers and staff who can communicate with him in his native language. Miss Martinez can connect with him in a deeper level because of that. Academically, he's growing. He reads and comes home and goes straight to work. He loves learning. I watch him now, watching TV in English and laughing. I ask him, "What are you laughing at?" And he said something funny. He is actually comprehending what he is hearing. At Rocketship, I finally feel like we are getting the help we needed. I can see the difference, not just in my son, but in my family as a whole. We work hard as parents to give our children the best and feeling confident that I made the right decision by choosing Rocketship. This has been the best experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Okay. Thank you for passing this out. That brings us to our governance issues. We've adopted the agenda as listed. If there's no objection, these items will be adopted. Do we have any objections? Okay. Seeing none, these items are adopted by unanimous consent. All right, thank you so much. All right, that brings us to number 2 on our governance issues. I'll let that get caught up, which is our charter school renewals. First, we'll hear presentations about those schools and then take individual votes on those. Our votes for my board members, we will not be raising hands to vote. Instead, after each motion, we will do a roll call vote. All right, to discuss our charter schools, I'll turn it over to Dr. Adrienne Battle.
Thank you, Chair Elrod. I would like to invite up Director Sharika Roby Grant. She leads our charter school office to share the updates and findings for each of the charter renewals.
Madam Chair, members of the board, and Director Battle. Thank you for the opportunity to share the Charter Office Review Team's reports on 3 charter renewal applications. This evening, the MNPS Charter Schools Office will present the renewal application evidence findings for Valor Flagship, KIPP Collegiate High School, and Rocketship Northeast. The MNPS Charter School Office provides oversight to 27 existing charter schools and leads the authorization process by coordinating internal and external experts to review the charter application and presents the evidence findings to the MNPS Board of Education. Tennessee Code annotated 49-13-121 sets forth the procedures by which a charter school may renew its charter agreement with its authorizer. A charter school must submit a renewal application to its authorizer no later than April 1st of the year prior to the year in which its charter agreement expires. On or before February 1st of the year in which the charter expires, the authorizer shall rule by resolution to approve or deny the charter school's application. Pursuant to TCA 49-13-121, an authorizer shall consider the charter school's renewal application, its annual progress reports, its renewal performance report when deciding whether to approve or deny the charter school's renewal application. Additionally, evaluators can consider the charter school's annual reports, the LEA's performance reports, site visit reports, and any responses submitted by the charter school regarding the visit findings. Correspondence from the LEA to the governing board regarding the status of the school during the term of the charter, as well as any plans of correction required by the LEA of the governing body. The renewal process has 4 main objectives. Use the published evaluation criteria from the Tennessee Department of Education, incorporate supporting documentation in the review process, Rate each section of the application using the ratings provided by the Tennessee Department of Education and reach a consensus and recommendation. As you can see on the flow chart, the review process is similar when rating a new start and renewal application. One distinction within the review process for a renewal application is review members provide a recommendation of renewal or non-renewal for the applicant. I will now highlight a few components of the review process that the Charter Office incorporated that the board should know. Our office heard your feedback from last year's renewal process and wanted to ensure that feedback was included in the review process for this year. During this renewal cycle, the Charter School Office conducted capacity interviews with each renewal applicant that focused on questions that centered on the original application stated goals. This process provided the opportunity for applicants to discuss results to their stated original goals. Additionally, the MNPS Charter School Office facilitated the consensus meetings with review team members to determine the final rating for each section and recommendation to renew or non-renew the contractual agreement for each applicant. As you can see, the review and rating of the renewal application were comprised of a variety of members based on their areas of expertise from multiple MNPS departments. Additionally, sections within the renewal application included academic success, operational stability, financial health, and future planning. The board will see within the evidence findings report and board presentation data and information that provides details regarding the progress of the stated goals from the original application. These sections were rated by review members utilizing the guidance from the rubric ratings of meets or exceeds the standard, partially meets standard, or does not meet standard as determined by the characteristics listed. Tonight, the board has the option to approve or deny each renewal application. State law requires each charter application be considered and voted on separately. If the board votes to deny the renewal application, the Charter School Governing Board may appeal to the Public Charter School State Commission within 10 days of the date of the decision to deny. If the renewal application is denied and an appeal is submitted, an appeals hearing will proceed with the Tennessee Charter Commission. The Charter Commission has the option to uphold or overturn the decision of the school district. In the event the decision is overturned, the Charter Commission will become the LEA for the renewal applicant. We will begin this evening with Valor Flagship, a 512 charter school with an enrollment cap of 1,425 students located in the southwest area of Davidson County. I will highlight a few of the evidence findings listed within the board report and included on the next few slides. In academic success, the applicant was rated as meets or exceeds the standard. Some examples lifted from the board report are the applicant's positive academic achievement and growth results and annual performance framework scores. In operational stability, the applicant was rated as meets or exceeds the standard. Some examples lifted from the board report are the applicant exceeded its attendance goal and increased its enrollment over the charter term. In financial health, the applicant was rated as meets or exceeds the standard. Some examples that are lifted from the board report are the applicant score meets or exceeds the standard in the annual performance framework ratings. Additionally, its internal financial metrics and annual surplus reporting. In future planning, the applicant was rated as meets or exceeds the standard. Some examples lifted from the board report are the school's plan to increase achievement and growth, as well as a plan to focus on its high school model. After a thorough review of the renewal application, the review team rated the overall ratings for Valor Flagship renewal application as meets or exceeds the standard in all sections. The review team determined that the academic outcomes, operational condition, financial condition, and goals for the next charter term merit renewal of the charter agreement for Valor Flagship. I will turn it over to the board for the discussion and vote for the renewal application for Valor Flagship.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Do I have a motion? Ms. Player, or Member Player, excuse me.
I make a motion to approve Valor Flagship due to it meets or exceeds standards in academic success, operation stability, financial health, and future planning.
Second.
That motion's been first and seconded. Is there any discussion? Excuse me.
I just have a question.
Member Bugs?
Yes, I just have a question for Metro Legal. If we're voting to renew, do we need to state reasoning?
Presumably, no one would challenge if it's a renewal and it's approved, but reasoning cannot hurt. Reasoning can still be stated.
So your
It
recommendation
should not
would be
be
that
required.
we don't, okay, thank you.
Anyone else with discussion? Member Tyler?
Yeah, I just think is this on? Sorry. I think it's pretty clear looking at the students that they are choosing to recruit, that they are picking and choosing who they want to have. I see that the vast majority of their students are not economically disadvantaged, that they have a very small students with disability group, and it appears that they have cultivated a very specific group of students to attend their school. That being said, they are meeting the needs of those students, and I have pledged that I will not vote against a school that is meeting the needs of its students. But the fact that it is clearly picking and choosing who they want means that I will have to abstain from this vote because I don't feel like I can vote for them knowing that they are receiving these results by cultivating who they are choosing, but they are also meeting the needs of those students, so I can't vote against it. So I will be abstaining.
Anyone else? Okay. I have a couple comments. Valor Flagship prides themselves as being like one of the best charter schools in the state, and we can see that through their scores and that they outperform MNPS. We recognize that. A concern that I have is that as a board, we agree that charter schools, if we are going to renew them or whether they're a new charter, we're stating that we believe that they're going to do a better job than us. And again, their scores are outpacing ours. But it's our due diligence to figure out why that would be, particularly if Valor Flagship has been in business for 10 years. What are we gaining from this that we as well can implement? That's the original intention of charters. So my encouragement would be for us as a board to dig deeper into this data. I, of course, have noticed the same open portal information. Of course, I know it anecdotally from living close by to Valor about their student makeup and the requirements to be a student there. But it behooves us as a board to look at what are they doing, if anything, and do we think there's anything that we can apply? Is there something that we can implement in surrounding schools? My assumption is maybe not, because again, of the differences in those demographics, as they are starkly different than the schools that are surrounding them. Croft is 20% economically disadvantaged. Overton is 25% economically disadvantaged, while we have only 15% as an example at Valor. So those are some of my concerns. Additionally, I would have to say, while we have some people from Valor in the audience, I'm disappointed in the recent advertisements that have been specifically posted above certain schools that feels adversarial, and I would appreciate to not have those. But beyond that, I understand that y'all are doing a good job with those scores, and we cannot deny that. And I appreciate that you are here, and I hope that we have some additional conversations about what, if anything, we can apply from your school to our own schools without picking and choosing those students in the ways that it appears we might be doing through the data. All right. Be there no further comments? Dr. Sevier, will you do the roll call vote? Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I'm ignored, or not ignored, but miss all.
I just have a clarification. We have information from the data warehouse. And so I guess I want to know what numbers are we basing it by? Because we have an information in front of me for the 23-24 subgroup tally has ED as 40% or 39.74%, which I assume means economic disadvantage. So is this information that we have from us, I guess, is there a key to make sure that we're making a decision off the proper information? So,
In these subgroup tallies, is that where you're seeing that?
yeah. So what does this mean? So
She's wanting to know, like, what is the Y, what is the D?
This is economical disadvantage. Y means yes, they are economically disadvantaged. N means no, they're not economically disadvantaged.
And is that for the subgroup of all of these students?
Yes,
For within that school?
that's correct.
Why is that different
yes, so it's like
than what was on Open Portal from this morning? Because this is what I got.
So for the audience, sorry, we're having a conversation. We have some information from the
it
data
doesn't
warehouse
necessarily matter,
that
right?
says economic disadvantage has 39% versus 60%. Ms. Elrod is 25%. So I just want to make sure we're using the same foundational information.
It is also quite possible that I maybe typed the number incorrect. So I appreciate that. Because I have LEP. I have LEP correct. And I have students with disabilities correct. I have percentage of white students as 48%.
Yeah, you might be. Yeah, they have flagship and ballot.
Yep.
So they might go together.
Boom.
Just for do you want me to clarify that?
Yes, please.
Sure, go ahead, Master.
So just for clarification, in the online portal, I believe the two schools which comprise the charter is for the entire 612, correct? Which is Valor Flagship Academy. They are, sorry, 512. And the 512, the 5-8 school can be listed as one school and the 912 schools can be listed as another. And so we are looking at the entire charter here, which is for both of those schools combined, but they can count within the data warehouse, or sorry, within the open portal as two different schools as well.
Got it. Okay.
That hence different numbers.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. All right. Dr. Shavir, will you take the roll call vote?
Dr. Gentry? Dr. Gentry votes aye. Ms. Masters? Ms. Masters votes aye. Dr. Nabar-McKinney?
Aye.
Dr. Nabar-McKinney votes aye. Ms. Buggs?
Aye.
Ms. Buggs votes aye. Ms. Mays?
Aye.
Mays votes aye. Ms. Player?
Aye.
Ms. Player votes aye. Ms. O'Hara Block?
Aye.
Ms. O'Hara Block votes aye. Ms. Tyler?
Abstain.
Ms. Tyler abstains. Chair Elrod?
Abstain.
Chair passes. Madam Chair, 7 ayes, 2 present not voting.
Thank you so much. Motion passes. All right. That brings us to our next one. Thank you so much.
Next, we will present the renewal application for KIPP Collegiate High School, a 912 charter school with an enrollment cap of 461 students located in the northeast area of Davidson County. I will highlight a few of the evidence findings listed within the board report and included on the next few slides. In academic success, the applicant was rated as partially meets the standard. Some examples lifted from the board report are the progress toward the charter agreement's academic goals and evidence provided about achievement gap closure. In operational stability, the applicant was rated as meets or exceeds the standard. Some examples lifted from the board report are the renewal applicant has operated near their capacity since 2018 and their outlined facility improvements listed in the application. In financial health, the applicant was rated as meets or exceeds the standard. Some examples lifted from the board report are based on their annual performance framework ratings and clean financial audits throughout the charter term. In future planning, the applicant was rated as meets or exceeds the standard. Some examples that were lifted from the board report are plans to address academic challenges and plans to modernize the facility. After a thorough review of the renewal application, the review team rated the overall ratings for KIPP Collegiate High School renewal application as follows. Partially meets the standard in academic success and meets or exceeds the standard in the remaining sections. The review team determined that the academic outcomes, the operational condition, the financial condition, and goals for the next charter term merit renewal for the charter agreement for KIPP Collegiate High School. I will turn it over to the board for the discussion and vote for the renewal application for KIPP Collegiate High School.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Go ahead. Member Tyler.
I have a question. In their annual performance review results, it said that the school has room for improvement in the areas of credentialing, employee rights, and background checks. Background checks specifically is concerning, as is employee rights. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
So the annual performance framework requires background checks that each charter should complete prior to hiring an employee. Our HR, we have a representative within our HR team that manages that information for each of our schools that opt in to utilizing our background checks. We ask that our HR representative provide us with an overall rating of how schools submitted that information. And so if schools did not submit their background checks on time or employees were hired prior to the official approval, then we cannot give them a meets the standard in that category. So there are specific timelines and procedures that every charter school must follow when conducting their background checks, and sometimes they do not complete the entire process in the way in which they should. And so we ask for that feedback from our HR representative when we're providing our frameworks at the end of the year. And based on that data, we provide the rating.
Dr. Gentry,
I just want to clarify.
I need to turn it on, please.
Just want to make sure I understood you, but not all charter schools opt in, so we don't have visibility into whether all charter schools are following timelines and processes.
That is correct. So we have a number of our charter schools that conduct their own background check processes. We do not have oversight over who they decide to utilize if they utilize their own vendor. We just collect what is provided to us from our HR representative, and we utilize that information to provide the ratings. But Dr. Gentry, you are correct. Some charter schools use the autonomy to utilize their own background check vendors.
Member Block.
When we have a renewal that comes up when a category is partially meets, is there a process that happens after that, sort of like can happen on revising of applications in the initial application phase, where we get some sort of plan going forward for the area in which partially meets is found?
Yes. So for any of our applicants that do not meet the standard, the charter office does provide oversight with our already scheduled on-site visits. We have visits throughout the year, a fall milestone meeting, a spring meeting, an end of the year meeting where we meet with each of our charter schools. And so if any of our charter schools are not meeting those standards based on what is outlined in the performance framework, our office does provide additional supports within those areas. So if it's academics, we, during those on-site visits, provide feedback on suggested areas that we feel that each charter school should improve on. So it depends on the area, but each site visit is focused on academics, operations, and financials.
Dr. Naba McKinney?
Thank you for that question, Ms. O'Hara Block. To follow up with that, in the academics specifically, where it says partially meets, there was a concern about lack of evidence in providing gap closure in student achievement. Can you talk to me a little bit about that and what the implications are behind that?
So in the particular section, there was, I believe, data that was not disaggregated specifically to give the review team more information about if achievement gaps were actually closed from the applicant. And so sometimes there's just additional information that is needed based on what the applicant provided in their renewal application or what was indicated within the capacity interview. Review team members have a variety of data outside of the renewal application, such as historic 8-year data from Data Warehouse, where they can see the specific subgroups of an achievement of each of the students within the actual school. And so outside of the application, outside of the capacity interview, if the data did not show that specific subgroups were not meeting the standard, then review team members noted that information. Or if achievement gaps were not closed, then they noted that information.
Thank you. So as a part of the reviews that you all do with the schools, is that component of it included in the discussions that you have, since one of those categories are academics?
Correct. Okay. So in the fall, there's a milestone meeting that focuses on the school improvement plan goals. The first two goals are centered on reading. The first goal is centered on reading and English language arts, and the second goal is centered on math. And so the schools have to provide action steps with current data that relate to how they are achieving within those subjects. And part of that disaggregation of data, they have to include their subgroups. And so we're able to see in the fall milestone meeting as well as the spring visit if subgroups are not making the gains or scoring in a certain percentage. And we provide feedback. We do respect the autonomy because our charter schools do have the autonomy to utilize their own curriculum. But when we do note those deficiencies as it relates to achievement, we do provide our suggested feedback. We do wrap that up at the end of the year data, at the end of the year meeting. Prior to 10 ready testing, every charter school does a pre-10 ready test. And so we look at that data and they provide subgroup data as well, where we can provide feedback right before the end of the year is concluded. So there are opportunities throughout the school year with scheduled on-site visits where we can look at achievement data and provide feedback to each of our schools.
As we see in the report, it states that they have a partially meets review team rating for academic success. And we, of course, can read the report, but also through the additional data that was provided, which I appreciate, by the way. I'm going to have a hard time being convinced that this is a school that needs to continue. Again, we're stating that this school is doing a better job than us by approving it and continuing it for another 10 years. It is doing below our district, if not in some cases in past years at our district's level, including, of course, we're very proud of our TVOS scores. Since 2017, they've had low TVOS. Their chronic absenteeism, their out-of-school suspensions, all of their achievement information, including even online, the state success rate is the same as our districts. So I would be hard-pressed for us to pay a premium for a charter school to do. We're expecting them to do better. They've had 10 years to prove that they have not just a cool idea, but to do a good job. That is why, through the state, they are given a series of additional flexibilities that we don't have and other things. But if they have had these 10 years and they still are the same as us, if not worse than us, and that's even considering this form, this application that is created by TDOE in their benefit, and the state's own data and their success rate that they've created online, I'm hard pressed to say that it is a wise investment for us. And that is our responsibility, is to look at these and say, okay, you've been here for 10 years. Have you done what you were supposed to do? Did you stick with the original intention? Have you outperformed us? That is the expectation. The expectation is not that you're just as good or that you're worse in some cases. It should be that you are outstanding. We expect a high return on investment, and we are not seeing that here. And I have heard no arguments from any of my colleagues so far of why they should be here. So I'm going to need to hear those arguments of why we believe that they are a wise investment for our exceptionally limited dollars. Keep in mind that we spend $6.4 million on them, and they get that money first at a full per pupil cost, where we do not. So, besides the lazy argument that they already exist, what is the reason for them to continue? I'm going to have to ask if Dr. Gentry, you have anything since it is your school.
So when you talk about the sort of the plans, can you walk us through a little bit more what that looks like? So they're in partially meets in academics. What does that look like?
Partially meets was rated on the actual application, and what was provided within the application, as well as the support and documentation that review members considered when they made the actual rating. And when it comes to our office and the supports that we provide, we have to allow the autonomy as far as like the curricula that the school chooses to utilize. What we can do if there are areas of concern is provide additional feedback within those existing on-site visit supports. And that includes classroom observations if we need to give feedback to teachers while they're teaching, quarterly reporting on data from internal assessments that the school is utilizing, and sending that data into our office so we can readily provide feedback, meeting with executive leadership to have discussions about academic results. Those are some things that our office can do to push in to provide additional supports if we feel they're not meeting the standard.
So if I may continue. So at what point, I don't know how to ask this question. At what point do you decide, or do you get some clarity that they're either positioned to improve, or they're receptive to the feedback, or there are efforts that are taking place? Let me ask this question differently, and I think this is the harder question that you may not be able to answer because of process. When you rate any category as partially meets, does that imply your an assessment that says they can get there? Or is it they just partially meets and I don't know if they'll ever get better?
If you don't mind me responding
Hey,
briefly,
somebody.
Dr. Gentry. So part of this process here is for the review team to take all the artifacts and conversations that Director Roby Grant has described and place that as evidence against the rubric provided by the TDOE. If you don't mind, Director Roby Grant, can you go back to the slide with the definitions? And that was
Yeah.
intentional because there's a lot implied within those characteristics of what's considered meets or exceeds, what's considered partially meets standard and does not meet standard. And I just want to call that to our attention because of what I know the team is being tasked to do
And so
and how they have to come about in that assessment.
And I appreciate that, and I think that's probably one of the other things that we're going to advocate against, the 9 million things that need to be better in the charter process, is that. Because that's not helpful. It's just not helpful, right? It says it just lacks sufficient evidence. It doesn't really say that they didn't meet. I just can't prove that they've met it, right? And so I guess that just still begs my question. This is really I don't know. I don't, so is this not, it's not based on scores. It's just that, so is it the scores that are lacking that don't give you evidence, or is it something else? You can just say something else.
It is something else.
Okay.
It's a variety of
Yeah,
things.
Because I mean, literally, because you can run down a laundry list of things, but what we have in front of us are just end of the day scores. And if it's just scores, then that partially meets should say, I expected a X% gain or X% meets, and it was less than that. So they partially met or they did not meet. And so this whole process is just gray. And I guess I'm trying to get to the point to understand that if as a review team, and I know because of this, you may not be able to do this, Dr. Bowden, I understand. But as a review team, if I went into a school that from an academics perspective, whether it was the curriculum, classroom observation, and I felt that there's no way, based on how they're doing what they're doing, that these students are going to achieve what I expect them to achieve, then I would meet them as does not meet the standard. If I'm going to say partially meets, to me, that says that with the support, they can actually get there. And I'm just trying to understand if that's what partially meets means.
Yeah. I think this is a great question, but if you go back and look at the actual rubric that the review team is using, there's various components within it, right? And so it requires of them then to take all of that evidence and come to a consensus around, is there enough evidence here? Is there partial evidence here, or is there no evidence here that they can meet? And so it complicates it, and I think you're spot on. This is not a process that we completely own. And so when it comes to creating more objective measures around it, it can be difficult for the review team in their assessment. At the beginning of the presentation, Sharika mentioned that she added the office added a few components to this review process based upon the feedback of the board to help get us there where we can. Just kind of push for more information, more data points, going back to review the original application and bouncing that up against to where the school is today, given the hard data we have at our disposal. Because we are talking about 10-year agreements, honestly, like, I don't think any of us, well, a few of us are sitting around. So we're having to go back. I love it, though. I love it. I appreciate it.
What you trying to say, Dr. Bowden?
that you have to go back to the original application and really try to surmise like what were the original goals. And that's something that I know Director Robert Grant and also Chief Perry are working towards to make sure that we have rigorous goals and expectations for all of our partner schools, just like we do for our own schools. So I think like that's something we know moving forward we need to work towards. And then there's advocacy beyond this board around how we actually come about this assessment. Right now, the team is charged with using, based upon law, the application and the rubrics and the criteria as provided by the state.
Thank you. Thank you for that, and thank you for this discussion.
Can I add one more thing? I also just want to note that another challenge to this is that this law has changed every year for the last several years. And so, like, there's not good meat on the bone around how we define, how the state defines a lot of their process. Forgive me, sorry.
It's okay. I just have one follow-up question from that. From an accountability perspective, you said that you have those meetings that you go in with our charter schools and have those sessions with them. Do they have to take that information and use it, or do they have the autonomy to not use it?
They have the autonomy to not utilize the feedback. I will say most are receptive to the feedback that we provide.
But there can be some accountability
Yes.
to that. So if we're acknowledging, the team is acknowledging that through progress monitoring, something is off, it's not tracking right, and then it ends up not being right, you have the supports in place and the accountability that we gave you a nod towards something needing to change or being improved from the very beginning. And so when you get back to the renewal process or amendment process, whatever process we're going through, that is something that can be leverage of accountability around the supports that the charter office provides.
Thank you for that.
Member Buggs?
So I have a couple of more comments, maybe conversation for this board if you all are open to it. And part of it won't be helpful. It's just me wanting to pout because of today's announcement and the different conversations around what's happening with the state.
Moment, please.
Yes.
Make sure we don't, remember vouchers and charter schools are different from one another.
No. To be honest, I'm not even going down the path of comparing the two. More conversation around what the state, how the state continues to, yes, shift the goal, move the goalpost. I would ask that this body be open to having that conversation with the Charter Commission again, the same way that we met with the state board, the same way that we've met with other school board leaders from across the state. I think a conversation should be had with the Charter Commission. I'll be frank, when I was chair, they didn't want to meet. I asked twice, and I was able to meet with the board chair, but we could not meet as a body. But I believe that they need to, again, especially considering the article that I read today around the Charter Commission's inception, around their establishment, we can pout, or we can at least have the conversation and say that we had it, that we were able to meet with those members of the Charter Commission to explain our frustrations and ask for their push with their team, their executive director, their staff, to consider some of these conversations and to adjust some of the application guidelines. So that's one component, one thing that I just would like for us to think about and consider. I don't know how long it will take to come to fruition, but it never hurts to break bread with people that may have assumptions about us, just like we may have assumptions about them. The other thing that I would say is that I've never taught in the Maplewood cluster, but I did at least tutor there, and I do know that that is another just under-resourced community. It's another space where parents and families are not invested. I'm sorry, I'm looking at you. I should be talking to my colleagues because you are who I vote with. It is just another under-resourced community, and I struggled with the Neely's Bend vote or the Neely's Bend conversation every time. For those watching, I taught at Neely's Bend before it was taken over by the state. And so I struggle every time we talk about these, only because I would hate to take a school from students that have already been there. I certainly understand that sometimes the gains aren't what we hope, that we don't know what even the gains are expected to be. Again, my bad, Sharika, Ms. Roby. We don't know exactly what partially meets really means, but I can appreciate when a child has consistency, autonomy and considering the turmoil, big G gentrification, how it's impacted that kind of corner of the city. I don't want this to be a lazy suggestion or lazy consideration for you, that I want to keep the consideration for them, the consistency open for those students because they have been there. It throws a child's life and a family's life into turmoil when something is taken from them like their school building. We know that there are other great options across the city, but I would like to see if, based on what, yes, now this is for you, Ms. Roby. Based on what we see in the tally or in the table, I would like for us to see a consistent collaboration and partnership with Rocketship to understand what. My apologies, goodness, with KIP. Yes, with KIP, to be sure that they feel supported and that even when there are spaces for autonomy, that they understand that we are there, still there to help and to, yes, hold them accountable, but also to push them to be the best version of themselves. So I'm having word soup. It's been a long day for me, but long story medium, it's an under-resourced community. I would appreciate us considering that we want to offer those students consistency with the idea that we will continue to walk alongside them and encourage them to do better, encourage them to plug holes where they see them. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I hope I have swayed you just a bit.
I need to follow up to that. We as a board have had to make difficult decisions within that cluster of other consolidations. And those are difficult, and it does provide a lack of consistency. But we recently had a board meeting where we discussed that that was the right choice.
Touche.
And though it was difficult, it still was the right choice, because again, we have stronger expectations. Any other vendor contract that we would have, we would not accept the mediocre of saying we're going to just continue and hope they figure it out for another 10 years. So that is my quick response. Do we have any other discussion? Hold on, I know Member O'Hara blocked her hand up the longest. Thank you.
So, two things. One, there has been, since I think I've been on this board, an instance where we have had a school or a recommendation come to us that was from the committee and from the sort of process that you all go through that we should think about not renewing, if I'm right. Like I'm thinking of another school in which this happened, but they're like, if you're in the process of annual reviews and the different quarterly reviews you talked about, and you find something that would give you a sense that actually some sort of large problem is going on, we would hear that and we would have an opportunity to take action on it. What is the process, sort of the interim process between renewal and non-renewal that we have any potential action for? Is that a question that makes sense?
I can talk through the intervention policy.
Question makes sense. There's 3 different. You want to, Chief Perry? So Director Rober, if you want to respond to the various applications we can receive.
Okay. So August 1st, the board did approve a progressive intervention policy that was required by a state board for every LEA that has a charter school. And so within that policy, there are progressive interventions in place that the charter office must follow when a school is not meeting the standard in academic, operational, financial. Just so to quickly give a high overview, there are notices of concerns that are sent when there is an initial flag of an area of deficiency. That alerts the governing board of that particular charter, where they step in to intervene, whatever the notice is. If the school continues to the following year, we see there is still not gains being met, there is a performance improvement plan that is issued from our office that the school must complete. That just outlines the areas of deficiency and supports in place to help improve the deficient area. If there are areas that are still noted, where within the next round, which is the third round, the school does go on probation and receive a corrective action plan. The corrective action plan is more specific with timelines of must-dos that must take place before ultimately the recommendation is to move to the board for revocation. So there are a variety and levels of supports that are outlined within the progressive intervention policy that our office monitors throughout the year in every category that we put in place and follow accordingly. So we CC the board chair when we have to send out, if we have to send out specific corrective action plans or probation plans for any of our charter schools, the board chair is noted to receive that information.
So if and when there are concerns about schools in an interim period of time, we will hear about them.
Correct.
Great, thank you very much.
Dr. Gentry.
So a couple of things I want to say. I want to be clear that when I ask questions or make comments, it is to ensure that we have clear information to make a decision. I am not trying to sway anybody in any direction. So to that point, just like I can agree that the argument that just because they're here already is a lazy thing to do to justify a renewal. I also can't abide that we can be mediocre on our own without the help of the charter. So the other thing I want to be very clear about is on the comparison to the consolidations. Although on the surface and fundamentally springing from the comments from Ms. Buggs that it was a change and disruptive to the students in the having to go to a different school. I just want to make sure we're clear on the stark difference between what we had to do with those schools and what we're talking about today. Those were schools who were A, under-enrolled. B, we were pouring the same amount of money into a school that was a third occupied, that we were pouring into a school that was fully occupied. The third thing I would like to point out is that those students in the school that were under-enrolled were also underperforming. Those students were not at partially meet standards. They were at does not meet standard, below standard, whatever the other phraseology that comes along with TVOS scores. So that's a totally different ballgame. So that's truly not apples to apples. So I think fundamentally what our question is, because our arguments tend to center around the charter argument, the charter situation, that it's a charter school. And I am the number one advocate when it comes to making the argument that if you are a vendor, deliver. And was my phrase. But I would also say that in this instance, I want to make sure that we're making a vote about students and not about a building and how it's currently designated within our portfolio.
Member Player.
Has there been, so the progressive action, has there been progressive action to the school?
No.
Okay.
And I also want to note the progressive action plan was just adopted this school year.
Yes.
This school.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to affect next school year.
Now,
it's still good.
we just started moving forward.
Oh, just, oh,
But the last round of schools, operators coming to us, we didn't have that.
okay. Understand now. I don't think where I want to go. Part of it is I believe in due process. And I understand Chair Elrod's point about precious dollars, especially as being budget chair, and that investment. Given the demographics of the school, given the challenges that it has, I understand the difficulty of meeting the standards which are there. With the progressive, now that we have this progressive tool in place, I believe that we have the ability, not at any point in time, but to revoke a charter. If this not performed, we can revoke it. I guess the question I have here is, going back to the material evidence, is there material evidence saying that there are fundamentally failing on a consistent, egregious level to revoke a charter. And I don't know if that's a fancy way of saying it because they're here, but part of it is I think there has to be an opportunity for assessment, improvement, feedback. If now that feedback is blatantly ignored, if that feedback is not well received, that's a different conversation. I'm getting the sense that that hasn't happened. And so I think getting back to your point of kind of your question that you put on the floor of until I see some egregious aspect of a violation, the charter should not be revoked. That's my process of thinking of try to have this conversation of answering the question. I mean, the process is not ideal, as we've said many times on the floor about how to assess and to do it. But given the information that we have, what we have in front of us with the criteria, I would hope that the school would make efforts to bring the material evidence or bring more sufficient evidence to meet the charter agreement. And that we have a better evaluation, but that's a different conversation. But to try to get to your fundamental question, that is my personal thought process of due process should be in place. There should be a chance of, if there's a egregious violation, to be fixed, to be and to be addressed in the process. And you know, and in a perfect ideal world, I mean, ideally, with all of our schools that are underperforming, we would do that. But we know there's circumstances that are, I feel I'm not being eloquent. But anyway, there are circumstances that makes that difficult, or education would be a lot easier. So, but I'm trying to answer your question. That's kind of my thought process in answering your fundamental question that you presented to the board.
Member Tyler?
I feel like the last 10 years has been their due process. They've had a decade of due process, of chances for us to give them feedback and for them to receive it. And I will say this, I want to commend KIPP for being one of our charter schools who genuinely strives to meet the needs of all the students who want to enroll. I believe that they open their arms to the community and accept everybody who wants to come in the door. And I really commend them for following the heart of what a charter is supposed to be in that aspect. But that's just the first part of what a charter is supposed to be. It is supposed to offer an opportunity to students who may feel that they are in a situation that doesn't give them an opportunity. And then they're supposed to take that opportunity and rise them above and do better than and give them more. And they've had a decade to say, we're going to accept the same grouping of children as you see in your own school system. And we are going to do our best to meet their needs better than you did. Because that's why we exist, because we're trying a different way and something else. And I just don't see evidence that it has been done better. I think that genuinely they want to meet the needs of these kids. I think that genuinely they strive to do that. But I think we're all seeing how hard it is to meet the needs of under-resourced communities and families and kids. And we struggle with that in MNPS. And so for us to have to say, well, we're just going to continue to allow them to do the same or worse than us and give them a pass when, let's be honest, nobody's given MNPS a pass for having the same grouping of children and struggling when we have issues to meet their needs. What could our schools do if we had more, if we had the ability, if we had the resources, if we had the autonomy to do the things that they have, if we had private groups coming in and giving us extra money because they have a whole national charter network, and we don't. we only have what our budget is. And we're not even the top priority in our own budget. The charter schools are. They get every single penny of what they're supposed to have because of students, because that's what the state law is. And then we just have to make do with what's left over. So I think the question about, are they above and beyond? Are they taking this group of kids and not just meeting their needs the same way we would? Because to an extent, they are meeting their needs the same way we would. Not always better, not better, not always the same, sometimes worse. But they're trying and they're doing what they can with what they have, but they also have every single penny of everything that they need. They have extra money coming in from their charter network. And they're showing that what they have implemented as a way to help these students is not any better than what MNPS is doing. So why should we continue to take, what is it, 6 million? 6.4 million of our dollars and say, keep doing the same as or worse than us?
Dr. Adama beginning. Go ahead.
I just want to see if we can call the question. I apologize. Is that a bad thing?
You call the question.
Sure.
We called a question, we have to have a vote if we're going to do that, or is it an immediate vote? Any clarification? Okay. So, all those in favor of us going straight to voting on this without further discussion, raise your hand. Okay. All those that would like to continue the discussion? Thank you. All right. So we're at vote. Roll call.
Dr. Gentry? Dr. Gentry votes aye. Ms. Masters?
No.
Ms. Masters votes no. Dr. DeBon-McKinney?
Aye.
Dr. DeBon-McKinney votes aye. Ms. Buggs?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs votes aye. Ms. Mays?
Aye.
Ms. Mays votes aye. Ms. Player?
Aye.
Ms. Player votes aye. Ms. O'Hara Block?
Aye.
Ms. O'Hara Block votes aye. Ms. Tyler?
No.
Ms. Tyler votes no. Chair Elrod?
No.
Chair Elrod votes no. Madam Chair, 6 ayes, 3 noes.
Please continue.
We have reached our last renewal application, Rocket Ship Northeast, a K-5 charter school with a proposed enrollment cap of 525 students in the northeast area of Davidson County. I will highlight a few of the evidence findings listed within the board report and included on the next few slides. In academic success, the applicant was rated as partially meets standard. Some examples lifted from the board report are the percentage of students meeting or exceeding proficiency on 10 Ready and ELA and math performance compared to the cluster. In operations, the applicant was rated as partially meets the standard. Some examples lifted from the board report are progress toward achieving the operational goals outlined in the charter agreement and lack of evidence regarding facility improvements, as well as the enrollment capacity adjustments from 585 students to 525. In financial health, the applicant was rated as partially meets the standard. Some examples lifted from the board report are the description of their fiscal health that noted a lower generally accepted 90 days cash on hand, not receiving any financial notices of concern, as well as a non-compliance memo regarding the timely submission of federal funds reimbursement. In future planning, the applicant was rated as partially meets the standard. Some examples lifted from the board report are future goals and plans focused on alignment of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. After a thorough review of the renewal application, the review team rated the overall ratings for Rocket Ship Northeast renewal application as partially meet standard in all sections. MNPS recognizes the ratings within the application are partially meet standard for Rocket Ship Northeast. However, the recommendation criteria indicates a charter school should be renewed if it did not commit a material violation of its charter agreement, met or made sufficient progress toward the performance expectation in its charter agreement, and generally met the accepted standards of fiscal management. With this criteria in mind, the review team determined that the next charter term merits renewal of the charter agreement for Rocket Ship Northeast with additional supports. I will turn it over to the board for the discussion and vote for the renewal application for Rocket Ship Northeast.
Do we have a motion?
Can I make a motion? I'd like to move for approval of the charter agreement with additional supports as stated in the review team's review.
Madam Chair, just for clarification, this would be a motion to approve or deny. That's what's provided for under the statute.
So
I think the charter office would look at what additional supports would be needed.
Okay, and we can have that discussion once the motion has been made, I would assume. So I would then move approval of the renewal of the charter agreement.
We have a second. And no second. Do we have another one? Motion fails.
I move that we decline this application for renewal based on the evidence that the school does not meet the different categories around academic success, operational stability, financial health, the multiple areas of concern mentioned within the report from our charter office.
Madam Chair, again, just as clarification, that motion, are there specific grounds that the board member would like to note? And if you could state how those are relevant in your decision, that would also be helpful.
Sure, I'll restate the motion. I move that we decline this application for renewal based on the evidence that the data did not show significant progress toward the goals outlined in the charter agreement. The memo of noncompliance sent to Rocket Ship on April 2022, their lack of timely submissions around their use of ESSER and Title II funds, and the lack of evidence that their future planning is going to provide the appropriate foundation for operations moving forward.
Thank you. That's a proper motion.
First and seconded, so let's have discussion. I'll open it up for discussion. I will open it up for discussion. Apologize, my microphone was not on. As we can see, they only partially meet the majority categories that we cover. Again, it's, as we've discussed, it's gray, and it's gray on purpose. That is the reason it's set up that way for the TDOE. But through all of those, through financial health, academic, and operational, and of course, future planning, they're all partially meet. So even with that gray and leniency, they still were not able to do that. And again, that's after 10 years. My concerns are really going to focus on, they have these ongoing, just like our past school. They have a low success rate. It's actually below ours, though I know that we're not striving for mediocrity. We really do want exceptional, but this is not what we're seeing here. With the, again, leniencies that they receive and of course the $6.846 million that they receive a year, we still are seeing below the school district And we're also seeing a really high amount of chronic absenteeism. That was a shocking number of 41.5%, if y'all noticed that in your packets. But they are not outperforming the district. Except for one case, they outperformed us 2018, 2019 in math. And they, of course, are having some difficulty operationally through teacher retention. It's mentioned in the report that there's an ongoing issue with no facility improvements. And to kind of help with those facility improvements, they're discussing that they might need to lower their capacity, which shows that there may not be as much of a need for them. Financially, we've mentioned that they partially meets. There's some compliance concerns with title funds and ESSER funds. My biggest thing that is concerning to me with them partially meeting financial is that that's just frankly uncommon. Our financial requirements are so little, we don't require a massive audit, though ideally we would, except for that we cannot through the state of Tennessee. It's just uncommon for them to not meet those basics. And then, of course, the future planning that they partially met, and it talks about how there's just a lack of measurements and there's no way to determine their rigor. Overall, those concerns together are enough for, again, me to say that it's not worthwhile to continue to invest in this decision. Again, I understand that they've been within our school system for 10 years. However, they have not proven to be exceptional. I do not want mediocrity. I do not want them to just be average, just like I do not want us to be average, and why I push us to do better than such. And push Dr. Battle as well on that. I apologize for calling you out. But we're not seeing that here. We are seeing below the school district and also within their success rate, which I mentioned is something that is decided by the state. If nothing else, I'm going to vote to deny. If for no other reason for the vote for denial, I think it's important that we kind of go back to what was shared with us on those denials. If a denial goes back to the state has the decision to decide on if they need to continue, if they're finding that they are of value. Because again, it goes back to what the state's original intention was for us to have these charter schools. And then they are the LEA for that. Again, it is not a good use of our limited funds to continue a school that is not performing. And it's additionally, for fixed costs that are just inquantifiable in most ways, a poor use for us to continue to stay on them with the performance indicators that we kind of just talked about ad nauseum. So my vote is going to be to deny. Yes, Ms. Buggs, or excuse me, Member Buggs.
Sure. So this one is, let me back up. I understand what you all have said about the lazy reasoning about they're just still here. Like I said, I want to always focus on the people in the building, the students, the educators, the families who aren't the charter leaders or founders. They are there because they love children, or they're there because they are children. So this one is, I'll be honest, this one is hard for me because I am a proponent of maintaining schools being open because I don't like the disruption in students' lives. What I see based on the reviewer's findings is concerning and is worth discussion. But I want us to note that. I want us to always keep in mind that even when we have issues with whoever is before us, there are lives in the balance. There are children, and that's what I'm most focused on. I know we all are, but that there will be children and there will be families that just don't understand what's happened. They don't understand. And that, again, these typically, especially in this neighborhood, in this area, that is, again, another historically under-resourced area. And that I struggle with. So I'll pause there, but that's where I am. I'm not sure quite how I'll vote yet.
Dr. Dama McKinney.
Can you help me with something? I just want to kind of understand what the state rules are around this, because I noticed that even though they partially meet in all categories, at the bottom you said that a charter school should be renewed if it did not commit a material violation. Can you talk to me a little bit about what those statements mean and kind of where our responsibility lies, like kind of where are our hands tied on this?
I mean, I think simply put, is what the board has already communicated. It's vaguely listed. I mean, it's pulled, that is language pulled directly from the state law. And it's, that is the information at our disposal. Director Rober, Brandon, is there anything you want to add? Thank you.
Yes.
Member O'Hara Block.
So can we go back a slide here? I think, right, I just want to, based on what Dr. Naban-McKinney just asked, what is required of the review team, what is required in a situation such as this, my understanding is that the review team is recommending here and saying that even with all the things that they have seen, and given the processes we now have put into place around ongoing review, the review team is recommending renewal, the next charter term, merit renewal of the charter agreement. And so that's what
I think we keep asking the same question a different way.
Okay,
Sorry. The law, the application, the rubric has an extreme amount of vagueness to it, right? It leaves it up to interpretation. It is not, it's a state document. It is not one built through the LEA, which is MNPS, of which, if we had it our way, we would be much more specific around the expectations, the criteria, the process. But we have a state process that we must use and apply as much of the evidence as we can to the rubric that is provided and the language that is provided in state law. Again, I'll remind us that this is actually a new process. This changed since the last time you have gone through the renewal process as well. And so it is difficult because it is a vague, very vague process. So I think I'm just trying to be as clear as possible because I hear the question. I understand the question. You might hear the frustration in my response because my team has had, I've asked these same questions. It is an extremely vague process. And so this team is doing the best they can with the evidence, and I have to commend this team because they are trying to stay as evidence-based as possible to apply that to the rubric, to give this board what's at their disposal and based upon their expertise to guide you in this conversation. But it is a very vague process, application and rubric.
Member Masters.
Thank you. I just want to say that, with the state not having defined material, I think that is where it falls to us to look at the evidence that is being presented. A drop in teacher retention, future goals that are not measurable, no evidence to demonstrate their ability to ensure physical safety of space. I think if what we are looking for here is material evidence, it is there in this report.
Member Tyler.
And I also want to note that there's a lack of evidence for how the school ensures student retention. They only say that most students return. But they have, in 21-22, they had an chronic absenteeism rate of 57.2. There's a very real possibility that these aren't even the same groups of kids because they have a revolving door of kids that are coming and going and not showing up and then maybe coming back. And so are they really enmeshed in a community if they're not maintaining that community? Are they really serving the same groups of kids that will lose a sense of community if those groups of kids aren't even showing up to school to the point where they reach chronic absenteeism and that they're not able to provide evidence for how they are maintaining their existing students. And I think also Board Member Elrod noted that they're looking to decrease their cap, meaning that they're aware that they're not able to meet a full enrollment. And they've hovered at about 80%. they're not even able to maintain that full enrollment. So I agree with you to say that there may not be a need if they can't meet that, and they're recognizing that and asking to lower it. I have a lot of concerns that have been enumerated and that have been spoken about, and because of those, I will not be voting to renew. I will be voting to.
I'll say, I want to make sure that I want to be sure that I give a chance to Dr. Gentry to speak, as she had to be cut off the last time. Okay. Member O'Hara Block.
So I want to recognize that there are things within I agree. I mean, there are concerns within what we heard from the review team, from the charter office. But I also heard the new executive director for Rocket Ship in his comments today say that this school was a level 5 each year over the last several years, that the school, that only in the last year, I have like sketchy notes that I wrote down, but other than a 4 composite last year with 5s otherwise. That I put a lot of stock in, and I have, and I will, and when I do make comments on this floor, I talk a lot about things like value added, and I believe, and growth, and our ability to look at a school, at a community, and say, okay, you're trying to get there. You're not there yet, and frankly, we're not there yet. And I, at the invitation of the school, went and visited. I saw high quality instruction going on in classrooms. I think that Board Member Buggs has made a point that's really important when we think about, frankly, the alternative here. It is the likelihood that the State Board of Education, the State Charter Commission, if we deny, votes to approve, and what we have done is to put a school, a community, students, teachers, humans into a place where they have to live in uncertainty for some period of time, when we have a general recommendation that says there are some things here that don't work and we need to make those things better, and we are going to work to do that, and this school is going to work to do that. And we have systems now in place where when and if there are problems, we are going to identify them earlier, we are going to work on them earlier, and we can review these things as they come up. And so it feels very hard to me to want to say to a school that has been a level 5 TVOS school and that might well be outperforming some of its neighboring schools, I'm sorry, you got to go through the next several months with no consistency or knowledge for your kids, your families, and your educators of where they might end up. Knowing full well, as we all do, unfortunately, or perhaps because it might make sense once you get started unless something is very wrong, that the the Charter Commission will vote to approve. And it just makes me, it's very hard to want to do that when I haven't seen material violations and there is progress being made. That was all.
Dr. Gentry.
So I want to commend this board for the past 7 minutes. It's the best and most relevant conversation we've had about a charter school renewal. Probably the best one ever. It was without hypocrisy, and it literally focused on the information that was in front of you, and I appreciate it. So I will have to disagree that I do believe that there are some material things. Again, the whole process, and I've said this 1,000 times, the state has created a process that is intentionally vague, intentionally nebulous, with so many opportunities to catch these schools and prop them back up and let them continue to move forward. The question I would have to ask is, do I have a better option for the students with their community schools, given the socioeconomic status there. They're in that neighborhood. So what are the options for them if they're not in this school? What can I do with those additional resources for those schools if I get those students back? Because I'm going to say again, I do believe that the findings are concerning. And when you get into the details of them, the challenge becomes, right, is that the charter office can only make the recommendations based on the rubric, and then we get to vote based on some other information. I think that's my big thing there is I guess I would want to understand, this was my question. I actually wrote it down before. I got it now. The individuals that we say are going into the school to review academics and look at all these other things. So we talked about it for academics, that we go in and we make some recommendations. Are we doing the same thing in the other areas of operational stability, financial health, and facility planning? What is that, future planning? I got one eye.
Future planning is not, because it's not a category within the performance framework, but academics, operations, and financial are questions that when we do the on-site visits center around those specific categories.
And so the individuals who are doing that, are they specifically hired to do that for charter schools?
It is a variety of members within MNPS. They are not specifically hired to just go to on-site visits for charter schools.
Okay, thank you. That's all I need to know.
Can you repeat that again?
So may I repeat it to make sure I can understand, and then I'll let her repeat it? 'Cause I'm passionate about this one right here.
I do want to add that my office is specifically hired, but the additional.
Oh, I understand.
Okay.
So we're taking bodies that were not hired to go into charter schools and help them close the gaps that we've identified. We're taking resources from other areas that could be in district schools, helping with academic plans and SIPs, could be a myriad of other things. And so I have to find these resources and pull them from there to go into a place that I'm already funding to close a myriad of gaps that help. Okay. Thank you very much.
Before I move to you, excuse me, real quick, Member Buggs and then Member Masters is who I have next. To see if we can better answer part of that question that was proposed of would no longer having this school affect our reimagined work or that cluster negatively? Are there seats available? Are there concerns that we need to be aware of while making this decision and having this discussion? Dr. Battle. I'll ask it maybe in a more clear way. Are there seats available in surrounding schools to hold these students so that they cannot be disrupted as much as possible?
I'm going to look at Chief Perry as I answer this question. There's about 5 elementary schools in this cluster, none of which are over capacity at this time. I think you are.
The follow-up question to that I have overheard in discussion so that we have clarity and truthfulness is, are any of those schools, are any of those schools on the priority list? They are not. Thank you for the clarity.
We have 1, 2, until the new list comes out, but we do anticipate.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
They'll roll off. We understand. That gets me to make sure that I'm seeing everybody that needs to be seen. That gets me to Member Buggs and then Member Master. I'm going to call you Masters. Member Buggs. Thank you.
So my first question would be more for Metro Legal and maybe for you, Mrs. Roby Grant. What is the process if this charter school is not renewed? If their charter is not renewed, what happens next?
If this charter, Board Member Boggs, if this charter school is not renewed, they would have the right to appeal to the Charter Commission.
Okay.
at which point that appeal would be heard by the Charter Commission, which would determine whether to approve or deny the renewal of this charter. If the commission were to choose to approve, it would become a commission school unless it was returned to the LEA by agreement.
And our policy says that they couldn't. Okay,
That's
and so
correct.
it's not that they would reappeal to
They would
us. It would.
not come back before this board. in this
Okay. So I will say the one place that I still struggle, because again, this is concerning, but the one place that I do struggle is that, and Mrs. Roby Grant, you've been phenomenal. Anytime I've had a community member who has their child in a charter school, they have an issue, they don't get a response from a board member at that charter school, or I suggested them that they go to a board meeting and they can't find the meeting, they can't attend, they can't go. We seem to be stuck then. But you and your office have been great about helping us follow up and reaching out to maybe the charter leader instead. My fear is that that doesn't happen when they go to the commission. Now, I understand that we shouldn't operate out of fear, but that is something that's still hanging over my head. The idea that when a charter school is a part of the MNPS LEA, if we're the LEA and we're authorizing and overseeing them, we still don't have as much authority as we once hoped, but we at least are able to collaborate with that charter school. We're able to work with those families who are just kind of hanging in the balance. Many families just don't know about these conversations. They don't know that we are renewing or not renewing. And so I struggle there thinking about if this school closes, those families, some will disperse and come to MNPS schools, some will stay with Rocket Ship because we know that the Charter Commission will reapprove them. Then what happens to that collaboration? And so something that I just wanted to let you all know as my colleagues, that is something that I think about, because that is something that tends to happen because I have so many charter schools in my area that Mrs. Roby Grant, you and I have become good email buddies trying to help these families connect to a board meeting outside of our own. So it's something that I'm thinking about. I don't have a response to that though. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I speak?
Yes, thank you.
I think statutorily those are required to be public meetings. So if there is an issue,
Unfortunately, I know on paper that is the case. I'm going to say again, I worked in the charter school, so I'm not going off rumor. I've talked to parents, so I'm not, so I'm not saying that you are wrong. I'm just saying that, we're in research and practice versus in theory are just different. So there's that.
Can I ask Justin a question? So I hear Ms. Bug saying she's sharing that with the charter office. Is there any other follow-up that you would recommend if that's something a board member hears?
if that's something a board member hears, they should make the charter office aware, and we can look into what solutions there would be to that issue.
So I think Director Roby Grant, which I know we do, keeping Justin and his team informed as well. Thank you.
Member Masters?
All right. Not to belabor the point, but material. Substance or substances of which a thing is made or composed. Academics, operations, and finances. So they're not meeting expectations in financial compliance. I challenge you to find an MNPS school, a non-charter MNPS school, that is not meeting financial compliance. They do not have measurable goals. Everything we do in MNPS is around measurable goals. That is how we take 2 schools on the priority list in this cluster and move them off of the priority list, is by setting and achieving measurable goals. Teacher retention, I would call that material. I think that absolutely fits within that definition. Just to point out that there are, within this report, there are multiple areas of material concern, and those are areas that are not of concern with our MNPS-run schools.
Dr. Gentry?
Thank you, Chair. So just to kind of back up through some of the comments that were made previously, unfortunately, if we could guarantee that having them stay in our portfolio would, get them compliant or responsive to our recommendations, just one thing. I think that, again, and I thank you for extending my comment, Chair Elrod, when I asked a question about the schools that are surrounding them. Like, there's capacity, and these are schools that are doing what we ask them to do, and can do more, as we've proven before, with additional resources. And then I'll say again, and Ms. Bugs and I just recently had this conversation about failure avoidance, right? So that's what operating out of fear is trying to avoid something from happening versus making a decision to ensure that something good happens. So we don't want to practice failure avoidance. We want to be success oriented. And so the question fundamentally for me is, what decision can I make to have more impact on the success of the students that are currently in that building?
I like to echo the comments of, I appreciate the discussion that we've had on the board floor, and that we have used the information that's been provided to us generously by the charter office. I want to make sure that we stay publicly, that when we convey some form of irritation or aggravation with the process, it is not within our own staff. It is within the parameters that they have to work within. I want to thank, for all of these applications, the staff that have volunteered to be a part of these applications and renewals. It is a lot to ask of these individuals, both within and outside of MNPS. And that's even more so as we as a board, which I am appreciative of and am very proud of, have asked for additional information, including all of the interviews that you discussed and the ongoing removal of our own resources to try to do the best thing for our students and the commitments that we've made. So I appreciate the additional information that's been provided for this renewal series. I believe, if I may say so, it is one of the better ones that we have had with thoroughness and the amount of information that's been provided. I also, again, would like to remind us that our goal should be that we strive towards excellence. And we have done a tremendous amount of work, seen and unseen, within MNPS to do that, both individually and as a group, and of course, our staff. So, with that said, we have a motion to deny. May we have our roll call vote?
Dr. Gentry?
The entire motion? The motion is to deny.
Dr. Gentry votes aye. Ms. Masters?
Aye.
Ms. Masters votes aye. Dr. Nabama-Kinney?
Aye.
Dr. Nabama-Kinney votes aye. Ms. Bugs?
You can pass and we'll come back to you. I can't, no, that wouldn't even matter. I just don't care.
Ms. Bugs votes aye. Ms. Mays?
Aye.
Ms. Mays votes aye. Ms. Player? Ms. Player votes aye. Ms. O'Hara Block?
No.
O'Hara Block votes no. Ms. Tyler?
Aye.
Ms. Tyler votes aye. Chair Elrod?
Aye.
Chair Elrod votes aye. Madam Chair, 8 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you so much. And I also appreciate to our staff for doing those roll call votes. Thank you for our charter office for being here this evening. All right, that gets us to board reports. Before we get to announcements, I know that we need to hear quickly from the Director's Evaluation and Student and Support. Dr. McKinney, do you have any announcements about the Director's Evaluation and Support?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I was in a daze for a minute. That was really hard. Director's evaluation. The self-evaluation has come out. We will be forwarding the self-evaluation to you tonight, first thing in the morning. Please take the time to review the first quarter evaluation, provide feedback. The model is still the same. So please make sure you're providing feedback for that evaluation. And we're going to set up a deadline for nice try. So we want to have you guys completed, today is the 28th, by next school board meeting, which is December 12th. Is that too long?
That is fine.
That's 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks.
December 12th is, that is.
Or actually, I'm sorry, let me give you December 11th, the day before the school board meeting, so we're not doing it on school board meeting day. Well, and if that's not gonna stop us, then we can move it back to December 8th so that I can, follow up with phone calls so that you'll have it complete by December 11th. I appreciate you.
So I want to make sure that we're clear that it is due on the
December
8th.
8th. Yes,
It is
December
date
8th.
is due on the 8th. As part of the organization of our meetings, during board reports, I'm going to start providing, instead of waiting till announcements, chair reports and information from the board chair position. So again, it's the 8th. I appreciate that everyone has prioritized that in the past. We have a lot better, for the members of the public, we have a lot better feedback, not only in its fruitfulness, but also people are doing it. So I appreciate that.
We have
100%
100% participation rate.
It is 100%. And in case you are not aware, that's not always been the case. So I very much appreciate that, as it is a main responsibility of ours as a board. And I appreciate the taking that on, of course, from my other board members. As you heard, December 12th, we have a board meeting. That is our only board meeting for the month of December, just to make sure that everyone is aware of that. And we will be having a retreat, ideally in January. That date has not been set, so do not worry that you've missed that somehow in your email. We are working on what are the best options for dates with Dr. Battle and staff, and going to use those to kind of backtrack on what is our best date. Within those retreats, if you have any discussions that you want to be added to that, please let me know. The current agenda as it stands will be to discuss our budget priorities, to have a legislative update, to discuss, of course, evaluation and ongoing information along with the state. That gets me to the conversation about vouchers. I understand that there will be probably some desire to make comments about that in announcements. My hope is with our announcements that we'll just say ditto. But as we are probably all concerned about vouchers, I am gravely disappointed that the state would want to continue to push a failed experiment that we personally, as Metro Nashville, were the beginning of. And so I am deeply disappointed in it, and we will discuss it along with third grade retention and the smorgasbord of other pieces of legislation that will come in front of us throughout the legislative season coming forward. Lastly, as a board report, I need to make sure that I state that I went to the Council of Great City Schools along with Dr. Berthina Nabak-McKinney 2 weeks ago, and many of our staff. As you know, I attended virtually, not the past meeting, but the meeting before. And we learned a lot of great information. The Council of Great City Schools is a organization of the largest school systems in this nation, And the biggest piece of feedback that I have for y'all are some forms and paperwork on individual groups of students and their academic growth and some processes that people saw. I think the thing that y'all are probably going to be the most interested in is that I'm working with the Council of Great City School, and I appreciate their flexibility to get their training and their conference as part to count towards our annual conference year hours that we have to have. School board members are the only elected official that is required to have ongoing education in the state of Tennessee, and so we usually have to do that through a different association, so I appreciate their flexibility on that. Beyond that, the Council of Great City Schools was really impressive. I was really proud of us as MNPS. MNPS, just so I can take a moment to brag, had by far the most presentations there out of the other school systems, and everybody did an exceptional job. I didn't sit in everybody's because there were so many of them. There were over 12 different presentations, and many of them were staff that we don't always get to see. We see a lot of the same staff, of course, our chiefs, and of course, Dr. Battle, but it was really great to see a lot of our staff within the support hub that we don't always get to hear because there's just so many of them. So it was really wonderful to hear the impact of the work that they're doing, how they plan to continue it, how it compares to other school systems. It was also really great, so you know that there was so much feedback about how wonderful of a job that we were doing and how much other school systems were impressed with us. We were considered a leader in so many different areas, whether that was in our usage of ESSER funds, whether that was through our diversity efforts and DEI efforts, whether that was through our budgeting process, whether that was through our operations, because there was even an operations discussion at one point. And lastly, while we were there, I got to sit in, and I need to say publicly to Dr. Battle that I appreciate her allowing me to sit in on her team's retreat and being able to see a lot of that background work that they do for the schools and the clusters. And it was really exciting information, very deep and detailed information. And December 12th will be fun when we discuss all of the reimagined work that's coming before us. All right, that gets us to our announcements. I'm going to start with our junior board member and then our senior board member, and then we'll go through.
Hey, we're going first this time. Okay, so I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Hunter's Lane for hosting the second Nashville Urban Debate League tournament. I was there, I competed, it was really fun. I also wanted to take this opportunity to promote debate. Debate is an amazing extracurricular. It improves analytic abilities, it improves speaking skills. You get to meet new people, and obviously you get to improve your argumentative skills. So if anyone wants to be a lawyer, do debate. But yeah, debate's cool. Hunter's Lane is cool. That's all I'd say. Thank you.
Thanks. Senior board member.
Hello, everyone. Okay, is it on? Okay. I just want to first say that if I'm not mistaken, I think the participatory city budget, the vote for that closes on the 30th. So all of my MNPS friends who are 16 and older, you can vote on how the city spends some of our money. So I think that is really, really I think that's a really great opportunity, and I think that everyone who can should take advantage of that and, let your voice be heard. I also, because it's very often that MNPS has a lot of resources and supports for students and for families, and families just simply don't know that they're there. So I want to let seniors know that we have a lot. I didn't even realize till today. We have a lot of college partnerships and a lot of opportunities for scholarships with TSU, with Fisk, with Lipscomb, with Belmont. All four of those colleges are offering full ride scholarships to a lot of MNPS students. So you need to talk to your counselors and check it out and see what you can qualify for, because that's a full ride. That's a huge deal. And so, take advantage of that. Yes, Fisk, yes, all of them. Talk to your counselors, and I hope everyone has a great week.
I just want to confirm that I did not tell you to say that right. It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Great. District 1, do you have any announcements? That's you.
So again, I just want to say congratulations to Procon. And they're heading to the state. I think we got 2 schools, right? We're the only district, two schools, the only district with 2 schools. And then is it Tony Brunetti, who has been awarded the winningest coach in history of MNPS. So just congratulations to them. I'll just say ditto with regards to the voucher comment. But I'll just add, in addition to that, the new school scoring system. It's a double whammy coming our way beginning in the next school year. And so, fourth grade. Thank you so much. But I think that you know, at the upcoming retreat, just understanding the impact, how we're positioning ourselves as a district in the light of those things that are coming our way will just be important for public conversation.
District 3.
Just want to say, I'm real disappointed. The traffic made me late today because not only did I miss Stratford High School SAA award, but I missed Wyatt, my son's friend. I'm so upset. I've known Wyatt since he was tiny. And I was going to also mention the participatory budget. It's actually age 14 and up. Yeah, who are eligible. Go to nashville.gov, participatory budgeting. The ballot is right there. And there are a bunch of different projects that you can vote on. And I mean, I think it's exciting that it's citywide for the first time. That's all I got. Oh, also went to TSBA. Cheryl and I had a fabulous time at the delegate assembly. I couldn't seem to keep my butt in my seat. Had things to say, but it's always interesting to get to connect with school boards from across the state. And we had a great meeting of our coalition of large school systems during that as well. And so that's always very helpful to be able to connect with the larger systems here in Tennessee.
District 4.
I have a couple of announcements. First, TSBA gave us a plaque. I specifically, but TSBA gave us a plaque for being an official member of and TSBA is the Tennessee School Boards Association. So we're an official member of the Tennessee School Boards Association with an annual reoccurrence plaque here that we can hang up on our wall. Yes. So this is the first announcement. And it just slid off. Oh, it just slid off. Man. I don't know if that was a sign, but yes, thank you. Second announcement, as it relates to Tennessee School Boards Association, I want to congratulate Cheryl Mays for being appointed to an at-large seat on the Tennessee School Boards Association. So we will officially have representation from Metro Nashville Public Schools on the board. So congratulations. I wish you well. Godspeed, girl. Godspeed. And next announcement that I have is I want to publicly thank the HIP Donaldson has a program within their organization. They're the actual only HIP that is a official 501c3. So they are a nonprofit organization, and as part of their organization, they have a component called HIP Eats. And so HIP Eats would like to, and Tenfold, which is a local restaurant in our area, would like to partner with schools in the Donaldson community to fill their food banks. So I want to personally thank them for stepping up, especially as we're coming into the winter season and families needing a lot of support around food insecurity, and just a public appreciation of our community partners and the importance that our community partners play in really helping our schools and helping our kids and families be successful. So I just want to thank them for that and stepping up to the challenge of really supporting our schools. And if there are any other organizations who would also like to partner with our schools across Metro Nashville, please reach out to us so that we can get you connected to be that partner and to help continue to support our kids and families within our district. Thank you.
District 5. District 6.
Thank you. So I have a few announcements this evening. First thing is November 30th, which is this Thursday, at Antioch High School, they will hold their senior parent info session from 5 to 6:30 in the auditorium. And during this info session, they will discuss the college application process, scholarship opportunities, how to request transcripts and letters of recommendation, and they will go over a senior checklist. So this is open to all parents with students graduating from Antioch High School. Again, that'll be this Thursday, November 30th, from 5 to 6:30 p.m. in the auditorium. Also, on December 7th, actually, it's going to be two different iterations. Cane Ridge High School is holding a winter concert. December 7th is the first at 6 p.m. It'll be at the school. And then again on December 12th, again, at winter concert at Cane Ridge High School. The public is welcome to attend. I do know that the concert on December 7th is free and open to the public. I'm not sure if there is a charge for the concert on December 12th. Also, today, the students at Antioch High School were able to participate in the National Black Caucus State Legislators Youth Congress Day. And there were 50 students from Antioch High School that participated. They had an opportunity to meet with several legislators. And in fact, a couple of the students actually received internship opportunities. And big shout out and thank you to Senator Charlene Oliver and Representative Harold Love Jr. So that was a big opportunity for those students. Also, Antioch High School will be hosting an EL Parent Info Night. This is provided to, and I need to read this to make sure I get it right. The purpose is to introduce families of recently arrived English learners to immigrant youth transition specialists and key personnel to better understand resources and supports available at the school. And I thought I had the date on this, but unfortunately I don't, but I will have the date. I will post this information on my socials so that the date and time will be shared with everyone. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Also, as we move closer to the end of the year, just a quick reminder that we will be celebrating MLK Day events here in Nashville, January 11th through the 15th. Our own Elena Mitchell will be a panelist on the intergenerational panel at the Youth Symposium on January 13th. It will be held at MLK Magnet School. Looking forward to that. And as a reminder, our convocation keynote speaker this year is the incomparable Fiskite, Nikki Giovanni, and that is open and free to the public. We welcome everyone to come out to that. Also, be on the lookout for notification March 9th. Please mark your calendars. We will have the return of the prom closet sponsored by Couture Cares. It will be here in Nashville on March 9th. This is an opportunity for young ladies who will be going to the prom to get a dress free of charge. We had an enormous number of students last year who were able to find a dress. And this is a nonprofit organization that is traveling to different cities around Tennessee to provide free prom dresses to high school young ladies who are interested in getting a prom dress. And they're really nice dresses as well. And I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything because I don't want to get into trouble with anybody here. I think that is it. And by the way, I'm still fabulous. So there's that. And I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I haven't heard any rumors about ugly mac and cheese, so you followed my directions. And that'll be all. Thank you.
District 7.
I just want to say I'm just really proud of this board. I mean, governing is hard. We had some tough discussions today, and the fact that we were able to have that in a very civil, but thoughtful and serious way, I just want to say I am proud to work with you and to govern with you in this day and age.
District 8.
I'll ditto on that. and also just wanted to say thanks to everyone who came out last night. I had a community conversation around the proposed policy that we've discussed on this board around magnet schools and academic magnet schools. And it also was a good and civil discussion. And I am appreciative of I think probably close to 75 folks who came out to have that conversation last night. And that is all. Thanks.
District 9?
Yes, we are in the middle of a food drive collection for the Bellevue Community Food Bank. It's been going on through the end of this week. And also, if you are looking to get food from the food bank, there is an application process that you can follow on their website as well. The Bellevue Library Branch is having its annual book sale this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The proceeds from that will benefit the Friends of Bellevue Branch Library and make all their programming possible. And finally, Unicycle is accepting new and gently used coats, as well as standard school attire, and underclothes, socks, all of it. I mean, they take it all. And you can donate at your school office, or you can go to Columbia Sportswear in Brentwood, December 1st through the 17th, and you can donate an old coat then, but you don't have to. If you choose to buy a coat or other clothes there, then you could get a discount, and 10% of your purchase price will go to Unicycle to help provide winter gear and more for MNPS students, particularly those in unstable housing through the HERO program. So December 1st through 17th at Columbia Sportswear in Brentwood.
All right. As always, it's an honor. Be there no further business. This meeting is adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.